Hey, hi friends. Welcome to today's video. Today we are going to discuss an important topic in SwiftUI and Swift, like how can we use a list, and we will be populating a list through a real-time API call. So list is used basically to display a list of item basically in one column format. So those who are coming from UI kit background or iOS background, it is similar to the features what we have using a table view. So let's see it. So to create a list, the syntax is very simple list, and then inside that we can have the child component. So let's say that I'm having the child component as hello. So you can see right now we have a list with one row. So basically it's one column and multiple row, and then I can have as many as row as it is possible. Okay, but in the real scenario, you are not like you are going to take the item always static, like you will be getting the item from some APIs call, maybe some local JSON, or maybe from core data, anywhere else. Okay, so it can vary in the number of rows. Like you can have 10 rows, you can have 1000 rows. So it is like not feasible you to add manually those rows. Okay, so let's first talk about what data we are going to use. So today uh, we are going to use one of the public APIs, which is JSON placeholder.typecode.com, and we'll be using endpoint comments, which is giving me an array of all the comments. Okay, so if you see, it is having a post ID, name, email, body. Okay, now to convert this to um like a struct format, there is a very popular website which is called QuickType. So you can use this, and see I already pasted it. So you can see that it gives you the option to create model for multiple languages. So right now we are creating for Swift, so I'm just using Swift, and then you can choose either class or struct. So and then again we have multiple property, like to make properties optional or not optional. Optional you can make, it's always desirable to make the properties optional if you are not sure that property is going to be nil or not nil. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this model from here, and I'm going to create a new file, name it as comment model. So now my model is ready. I'll just change this name to model. Okay. Now, if you see here, we are using, we are conforming this struct comment model to codable. So basically, if you jump to definition of the codable, it's a type alias of equivalent to decodable and encodable. So basically, it is used to convert a data to a model and model to data, vice versa. Okay. So instead of codable, even I can use here just decodable, because I will not be doing any encodable here. Okay. Now see, it's beautifully created all my struct properties, and here you can see also we have coding keys. So coding keys basically we use if, let's say that in this scenario here we are getting the post ID as I capital and D small, but see it is creating ID as I is capital and D also capital. Means it's changing the name to maintain some proper formatting. Now, as when the decoding will happen, the compiler will do decoding automatically. So it has to map all your properties keys with the JSON keys what you are receiving. But in this case, the post ID is not matching exactly with this post ID. So in such scenario, you can use this coding key concept to tell the compiler that when you will be compiling this, or when you will searching for this post ID, don't search for this, actually search for this particular keys. Okay, that's where we use this coding key. Now let's create a view model class. So new file, comment view model, and here class comment view model observable object. So I have already explained observable object in my previous video. If you want to go in more details about it, I will share the link in the description. But here we are just stating that this comment view model class will have some properties which can change and which can publish it. Okay. So here now my view model is ready. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write or I'm going to create a property with @publish. So @publish, I'm using this keyword to again tell that this property we are publishing it and somebody can listen to these changes. Okay. So where comments equals to comment model. So as I'll be receiving array of comments, so that's why I've taken an array. Okay. And then here I'll just write function fetch comments. Okay. Now actually to take care of little MVVM patterns, so instead of making network call directly from here, I will write another class called comment service class. Okay. So comment view service. Okay. And this class will actually make the API call. So class and then function get comments. So first we'll form our URL. So let URL string, copy this. And then I will be using this URL session. So URL session is basically a class which we use in iOS to talk to our API. So if you have to make any API call, we use this URL session. So this is a singleton class which have methods like data task, download task, upload task. So basically we use data tasks when for all our normal get, post, put, delete, all these calls. Now download tasks we use when we have to download large chunks of data. Like let's say that if I have to download a large video file, in that case I'll go with the download task. And same if I have to upload a large amount of data, then I'll go with the upload task. But in this case, I have to just make a normal API, get API call to fetch the comments. I'll use the data task. Okay. So I will be passing my URL. And then in the completion handler, I'm getting three things. Data. So data is actually the it will all this response will come in the form of data object, and then I'll get a response which will contain all the response like status code of your service and error. If there is some error, in that case we'll receive error, otherwise it will be nil. Okay, so I'll just name all this data, response, and error. So what I'm going to check first, whether I have data or not. So first I'm checking that if I have proper data and if my error is nil. If not, that means just return. That means something went wrong in that case. Okay. If I have proper data, then I'll have to do decoding of it. So let comment response equals to. So if you see here, we are using JSON decoder. So what does basically do? An object that decodes instance of data type from JSON object. So whatever we will get this data, it will now convert this data to my model object. Okay. So JSON decoder dot decode, and here I have to provide the type. So I want to decode it to which particular type. So in this case, it will be comment model dot self from data. But if you see, it is not just comment model because we are receiving an array of data. So ideally it should be an array of comment model. Okay. Now, as we are using this try question mark, that means it can be null. So we'll just check if let comment response equals to comment response. That means in this case we get the data, in the else case we didn't get the data. Okay, and then at last we have to resume it. Now this function will call the API and will get the data, but we have to traverse this data back to our view. Okay, so for that we have multiple approaches, but in this case, in this example, I'm going to take a completion handler block. Okay, so completion and then closure of result type, which will have so result type have basically two cases, like one is success and one is failure. So in the success case, we will be receiving an array of comment model. Okay, and in the failure scenario, we'll receiving a error. Okay, so that's how my result is going to be. Not to make this error, because I have to return a custom error also. So what I will do, I'll define a custom error so that I can return custom error in some scenario. So I'll take this as, let's say, demo error, which will conform to error. And in this case, I can take, okay, bad URL, no data, and decoding error. So now here in this case, if it fails, that means my URL was faulty. So in this case, I'll return completion dot failure, and I'm going to pass the error as dot bad URL. So now instead of this demo error, bad URL. Okay. Similarly, in this case also, when the data is not there, what I will return? I'll return no data. And if it fails in this scenario, that means something wrong in decoding. So I'll return decoding error. So based on this, you can show different error message, or you can handle different as per your requirement. Okay. And if it is success, then in this case, here I'll return completion dot success, and I'll pass this comment response. Okay. So now my comment view service is ready. So what I have to do, I have to use this service here to fetch the data. So comment view service dot get comments, and then result. So what I'm going to do is, this result can have two case, like one, it can be either success or failure. So let's take a switch result case dot success. So in the success case, I will be receiving a model. So let comments, and once I receive this comment, I'll be publishing it to my comment object. So self dot comment equals to comment, and then case dot failure. In this case, I'll receive error, and I'm not going to handle right now. I'm just I'll print this error. Okay, so now my view model is ready. Okay, so as you can see, this variable is not optional, but this get comments, it is returning an optional array. So we have to just use a nil collocating operator, that if it is optional, then just assign a dummy array. Okay, so now build it. We are not getting any error. Okay, but one thing what I'm doing wrong here is, like, so see, when you call a API, so after that you should update your UI always on the main thread. So this operation will do on the main thread. So I'll just take this out and do my any sort of API, because once we assign this comment to my published var comments, it is going to reload my view. So that means I'm going to play with my UI. So this operation always has to be done from main thread. Okay. So now my view model is ready. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my view, So let's change this view name also because now everything is comments. So let's change this refactory name to comment view. Okay. So now I have this comment view. So here I will include that object as a observed object. That means I have to tell my view that I am listening to my view model. So at the rate observed object private var view model equals to comment view model. Okay. And then let's now improve this list also. So instead of taking it like this, so I will take a navigation view so that my main is that in my list I'm going to show name and email, and when you click on the list item I will take to detail page where I will be showing you name, email and body, all these three. So for that I'll be just including it in navigation view. So inside that I'll take a v stack and then I'll take a list. Okay. So now inside the list, let's create a separate component. We'll call it as a list row component. So right click, a new file, SwiftUI view. I'll call it as list row, or we can call it better name, comment row. So here, what I have to show? I have to show name and email ID. So the best way to take is take a v stack and take two text. Okay. Now this two text value has to come from your comment model. So that means we have to pass a comment model here. Okay. And then in this comment model dot, we can write name, and here we can write comment model dot email. Okay. Let's do some sort of formatting. So font name we can keep at, let's say, title 3, and this one as title 2. Okay. Now as you can see, now this have one variable which we have to initialize from my previews as well. So let's pass a dummy comment model so that we can see it also how it looks in my preview provider. So here comment model, and I'll pass some dummy value like 1 name, let's say Nilesh, email ID, and body as let's learn iOS and Android. Okay. Now here also we are getting one error because these variables are optional. So in this case, if it is nil, so we have to provide some dummy value. So just pass as NA, and this also I'll pass as NA. Okay, so if I click resume, you should be seeing this comment row here. Let me resume it one more time. Yeah, so see it's appearing good. Now we have to use this in my list. So here I'll be using a for each loop. So we have to loop with a data. So data in this case we have basically the view model dot comments, and content we are going to pass as. So when you loop inside this for each, you will get each component, like each comment one by one. So basically like this. So for the first time you'll get the first comment, the next comment, like that it will iterate from first element till the last element. Now here we can use comment row, and then we can pass this model. Okay, I think we are good to go, but there is an error. So it is telling that for each requires that comment model conform to identifiable protocol. Okay, now what is this identifiable? So basically, to understand this little more in deep, so list in SwiftUI, how it works, basically you have to pass certain items. Okay, now how the list will uniquely identify those items. Let's say that if you have to modify a particular row or if you have to delete a particular row, so to uniquely identify each row, it needs a unique element. Okay, and for that we need our model to conform to this identifiable protocol, and we need to pass a unique ID in that case. Okay, so if I go to my model and I need to conform to identifiable protocol also. Now if you see, if I build it right now, my error goes away. Okay, but I didn't make any change in my model. So what does basically this do? Now why there was no error in my case? Because the service which I'm using, this already have a ID key, okay, which is a unique in this particular case. If you see, it is an integer and it is just increasing format. Now let's delete this ID. Let's say that I don't have any ID. Now you will get an error. When you're confirming to identifier protocol, you need to add this stuff. And what is this? A object ID, which should be of object identifier. Means it can be integer, string, anything. Okay. So in my case, we are getting it. Else you can add a unique string, like you can add UDID dot string value, so that the list can uniquely identify your row. Okay. Now we are good to go. So let's run and see if we see something in our screen or not. So it's running, but I don't think anything is showing. And the reason for that is we have written every code, but we are not calling the fetch comments in my view model. Okay. So in MVVM, the data is with view model, and see, I have again segregated my services to uh, separate class comment view service. Now this class can be reused in multiple view models. So instead of writing the API call directly in the view model, I have written it in my handlers. So basically, if I give you a brief what MVVM architecture, so many times we confuse that view model should contain business logic, which I think is not correct. View model should contain just your view logic. So business logic should not be a part of view model, because if you include business logic in the view model, then you cannot reuse your view model. Let's say, for example, if I have a login screen where I'm writing um, a function to validate the format of username, and let's say that this function is inside a login view model. Okay. Now the same logic you have to use in your registration page also. Now registration will have a registration view model. Now you cannot do it like that. Registration view is having two different model, like registration view model also and login view model, because you have to use this validation code from the login view model, which is wrong. Okay, so view model is not like, which you can reuse at multiple places. It will be more or less strict to a particular view. That's why you have to separate a business logic separately, so that you can reuse your business logic at multiple places. Okay, so in this case, I can reuse my this get comment API from multiple places, because this has nothing to do with my view model. Okay, so now let's come back to our issue. So what we are missing here, that we are not calling the service. So in iOS, like we have methods like view did load, view will appear, view did appear, which is called a view lifecycle. Like once you loads your view, first view did load gets called, then view will appear, then view did appear. Similarly, in Swift UI, we have on appear method. Okay, now here in the on appear, what I'm going to do, just going to write view model dot fetch comments. So once your screen appears, it is going to call fetch comment, and hopefully this time it should work. So now you can see the list perfectly. Okay, I have not given any title, so let's give the list a title also. So dot navigation title, I'll call it comment list. Okay, let's run it once again. So it will look little beautiful this time. Yeah. Okay, so see, we have a smooth scrolling and we have lists showing the name and the email. Now my next task is when the user clicks on it. Right now, if you see, when you're clicking it, nothing is happening. when the user clicks on it, it should take you to the detail page. Okay, so let's go here, and before including this comment row, let's take a navigation link. So navigation link, and it have two component, destination and label. So in the destination, we will be passing where we want to go. So right now we don't have any page, so let's just write text, and label will be the same, the comment which we want to show. Okay, so now let's run this again. And this time you will see a arrow comes, and once we click it, it's going to the detail page. Okay, so now let's create a detail view. So new file, and then detail comment view. And I'm just going to copy and paste this code because it is going to be something similar. And I'm going to copy and paste this also, sorry. Okay, so instead of this comment row, it will be detail comment view. So now I will be taking one more text, which I will be showing as body. That's what the change. Let's change the font to body. Okay, now let's go to our comment view, and instead of going to text, I'll go to detail comment view, and I'll pass my model object which I'm getting it from there. So now once you run it, we are seeing a list, and once you click it, you are seeing the detail. So see how simple is to create a list, to navigate and to pass the data from a list to a detail page. Okay, so yeah, so this is the first video. In the next video of the list, I will be discussing more on like how I can um, take a checkbox, or how I can like delete an item from the list. And I will also show you that if, let's say that in this MVVM approach, if you want to write a unit test cases, how we can go with that. So that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please do like, comment, and subscribe the channel. Thanks.